You can hear Brad's little feet scurrying around. It's Xtina. I'm Mrs. Harmsworth. I love saying that. This summer I had the opportunity, excuse me, I have the hiccups, to change my last name to actually be Harmsworth. And what an honor, what a privilege. It's been so exciting to become Mrs. Harmsworth. And so what better could I be doing than helping my husband as he gets ready for his video. And he said, baby, can you go start the video? We're supposed to go on 3 minutes ago. So I helped.
I found my notes.
Here's who you really want to see. Oh no. No, you can stuff over. Here is who you really want to see. Here's the guy. Here's the one that everyone's asking questions to. Pretty exciting. And I want to see who our viewers are. So, amazing. Amazing. So Facebook is letting people know that we're on. This is video number 2 in a series of 4. And make sure that you're right there. I'm going to get some water. Do you want some water?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. I'll be back.
Hi. Did you have a good day? Wow. Running around. Am I presentable? Okay. I hope y'all had a good day. Love you both oodles, babe. We're loved to both oodles.
I love her oodles.
Awesome. I hope yesterday's was I don't know what to call it. Session, class, experiment. Yeah, exactly. I hope it was good for you. The feedback would indicate it was amazing. I hope that's the same for everybody. We talking about what we're talking about over these 4. We are guaranteed to step on some toes, and I'm a little bit sorry if your toes are some of those that get stepped on. I always start with the intent of being politically correct. Doesn't always end that way, though.
Yikes.
Yikes. We got some questions after the last one, so I figure we might as well start by answering some of the questions that got put out there. Though the intent of tonight's is to talk more to and about the men. The next one, which will probably be Saturday, it won't be tomorrow, we're going to talk about the women a little bit, and to and about the women a little bit. But tonight, the intention is to talk a little bit to and more about the men.
Ladies, we're off the chopping block. Whew, for once. Shoot.
Possibly.
Possibly, maybe. It's going to be really good.
So, but let's answer some questions. There were some great questions that came from the last one. Easily my favorite question came from good friends of ours in Indiana, and that was, at what age do I recommend teaching my child to create a list? What age do I recommend they start making a list of what it is they want in their spouse?
If you missed video number 1, Brad was talking about having a vision for your spouse or for dating. We both had a list going into the dating process of what we would like in a future spouse. And so in video number 1, Brad was touching on the concept of creating a list, like create a vision, have your top 10 things that you absolutely must have in your future spouse, and keep that at the forefront of your mind when you are prospecting for your future mate. So that was video 1. The question was pertaining to that.
So what age is an appropriate age to start creating a list? And the truth is, I can't answer that because everybody's going to be different. Everybody matures at a different age. Everybody starts being interested in marriage at a different age. So I posed the question to my extremely wise wife, and she asked me a question back. She said, well, at what age do you start creating a business plan? Because while it's important to be learning the basics of business all along, you don't actually start creating a business plan until you're ready to start a business. Genius. I never saw it that way. I love you.
It's good, like especially entrepreneurial parents. I know for sure my cousin Jay's wife said hi on this video. I come from a family with a very strong entrepreneurial spirit. So, the kids in that family grew up seeing a business and they were exposed to the concept of a business running. But until you're ready to step into one, you might not ever get the business plan hashed out. So it's good to expose your kids to the concept of what they would be looking for in a future mate. I don't think it's ever too early to be. The word programming is kind of like a loaded word, but programming your children for a future or a destiny. Because if you start talking to your kids about being a doctor or, a potential that you see in them from a very young age, you're setting a framework up in their mind. You're not telling them what they have to do, but you're encouraging a belief system in your kids from a very strong belief system at a very young age. So the same can happen with marriage, with family values, with business, just kind of planting those seeds from a young age. But then when they're actually ready to secure a spouse or find a spouse, that would probably be more the moment to start a list. But that's different with everyone. Everyone matures different. There's people that get married at 19 and they have amazing success stories. There's people that, more like me, I got married at 23. This is my second marriage. That's its own video. It's fine. But it would have been helpful to have a list because I really didn't know what I was looking for. So different ages, but never too early to expose kids to the idea of grooming them for an amazing spouse.
Absolutely. Like there's some important fundamentals that one thing I really appreciate about if you ever get the chance to read Grooming the Next Generation for Success, amazing book.
Where do they get that?
I don't have any kids. You can get it at DannyJohnson.com. It's called Grooming the Next Generation for Success. And I watch, we got friends who raise their kids using that method. And it's fascinating to watch because from before they can talk, they're being trained to understand that everything they do has consequences, and those consequences are their choice. Mm-hmm. Those are fundamentals we should all have from far too young, because it means when we get to the point of dating, when we get to the point of looking for a spouse, we unconsciously, instinctively, and habitually already understand that what comes of this is on me, so I better make it work good because I can't blame anybody else for it.
Right.
Things like to have an understanding that love is about a choice, love is about sacrifice, to have an understanding, even bigger, to make sure our children have a safe place to talk while they're growing up. Neither of my parents ever had a safe place growing up. Especially one of my parents, their home was very hostile. And so my parents did the best they could, but they never had an example of a safe place. And I would have to say that I didn't always feel like my home was a safe place. I can't speak for my brother, but I know that both my brother and I, we ended up learning a lot on our own and dealing with stuff on our own that, it would have been a wonderful thing if we had felt safe enough to talk to our parents about. And so as parents, it's an amazing opportunity you have right now to make sure your home is a safe place. And that's not sitting your son or daughter down and telling them they can talk. It's being real, making sure they understand that, we're not perfect, but we take responsibility for our decisions, building the fundamentals in a young person will allow that conversation about making a list to go way better, and it will allow you to have input. It will allow you to have huge amounts of input, because if they don't trust you and don't feel safe in your home, your input won't matter. They'll make their own list. It may not include some important things, and they'll go try it out and they'll fail.
Ooh, that is so good. I was kind of wondering where this was going to tie in, or where this was going to go. We're big fans of Grooming the Next Generation, and we're even bigger fans of watching our friends like Melissa and Kevin Sykes, like Carmen and Jackie O'Quinn, just to name a few. The Koblenz family, the way that they nurture and cultivate respect in their relationship with their kids, mutual respect, not kids being afraid of their parents, but a mutual respect, amazing, so cool. But Brad brings up a great point when it comes to talking to your kids about creating a list or dating or whatever. If your kid feels safe enough to talk to you about, the person that they like or quote unquote have a crush on or who they might potentially marry, that's an amazing safe place for you, mom and dad, to have an influence. Yeah, it's good stuff. Don't you want to be able to tell your son, I don't think that girl's got the best intentions for you, kiddo, and have them receive it okay? Like, wouldn't that be great? That'd be good stuff.
Or just be able to say, maybe something you want to put on your list is you find someone who's going to choose you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to put on your list someone who's going to respect your sexual boundaries. Like,
It's good. It's good.
there's a part in our lives where our
Wow.
parents are the biggest influence we have.
Uh-huh.
And if we don't, I'm not a parent yet, so, this is, take it for what it is, but there comes a time in a young person's life where their peers start having an enormous amount of influence on them. And that is a place where a young person, I'm not going to say a child, a young person starts to decide, well, whose opinion do I care about more? Where am I safer? And I don't, depending on who our children hang around with, I don't know that our peers' opinion of what should go on our list in a spouse is going to be that great. I mean,
Likes video games.
if there's 2% and
kidding.
98%, that's a lot of people who have some things to say about what should go on the list.
Right.
So, amazing question. Thank you so much for asking it. I never would have thought to talk about it. I hope that was at least a little bit helpful.
Dude, what are you talking about tonight? I'm so excited.
No, we're not. We're answering questions right now. I already told them what we're talking about later.
Okay.
But we're answering questions now. Another really amazing question that showed up was to choose someone every day. This is how I interpreted the question. Maybe I have it a little wrong. But to choose someone every day, do I first need to have chosen myself? And I believe this question is about self-acceptance and how that affects what we're looking for and how we interact with, say, our dating relationships or the person we want to marry. And I would say, yes, it does. It has a lot to do with it. To be able to accept our flaws, to be able to look in the mirror and be proud of what we see, even when we mess up, we're gonna feel shame. We're gonna feel shame in this life. We're gonna make mistakes. Some of them are gonna be enormous. Some of them we're gonna need lots of help to get out of. But the next day, we have to be able to look in the mirror and be proud of what we see. Meaning that has to do with who we are in here, and that goes back to yesterday, where it's about the habits we create and about the goals we set and where we're going and who we surround ourselves with. So yes, I would say having chosen yourself, if I understand correctly, is a big deal when it comes to choosing a partner.
XMH Beauty Total Beauty Challenge.
My wife, we just gave out second and third prize to some amazing ladies who made some decisions to create some new habits.
Amazing.
And
amazing new habits.
we get to watch them over the last 90 days, and they look in the mirror differently today than they did when they started.
Yeah.
And their whole 2017 is going to be different. Moving forward, they are moving forward in a way they never could have before. And it was all about self-acceptance. It was all about being better on the inside than you are on the outside, but using the outside to affect it. Like, if any of you who are in the challenge are watching, we are so proud of you.
Feel free to drop a comment because this is a whole different ball game. We're currently on Brad's personal page on Facebook. This has nothing to do with our company necessarily. So if you just took place in or if you just took part in the XMH Beauty Total Beauty Challenge, just kind of like talk about your experience. It was kind of amazing. We watched women who were facing some harsh criticism from their peers, from people around them, just really step up to the plate and start choosing to take care of themselves. We had a day called Self-Care Saturday, and it was about prioritizing self-care, making sure that like this is going to go on a whole different avenue than maybe what this video was intended. But women, I guess I see women as natural caregivers. Women want to make the world a better place. They show their love by sacrificing oftentimes. So I know that there's going to be, throw a heart on this video if you're a mom or a wife and you feel like sometimes you end up at the end of the checklist at the end of the day. It's like you've taken care of the house, you've taken care of the kids, you've taken care of the dog, you've cooked, you've cleaned, you've taken care of a lot of stuff. And then it comes down to the end of the day and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't shaved my legs in like 3 days. Oh my gosh, so gross. Oh. It's like, that's what happens. Like the chicks we get at the end of lists because we want to love, we want to give, we want to serve, we want to honor. And somehow that's just, it takes up a lot more time than what we think it's going to. Jennifer Fenton says, as a nurse, I wasn't taking care of myself as I should. It's amazing. So part of this challenge that we put forth with our company was on Saturdays to do something called Self-Care Saturday. And whether that's going to get your manicure, go, take a bubble bath, go out for a nature hike, whatever that thing is for you that fills your cup, we challenge women to go out there and do it. Because if you make sure that you're filling your cup come Sunday, Monday, when you start your week, man, it's like you have so much more to give out and more to pour out. So it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It sounds counterintuitive, but when you are making sure that your body, your health, your mind, your spirit, your emotions are being balanced and fed and nurtured, you have so much more energy to go make a difference in the world. So that was kind of cool. Kind of cool.
And I think something that she mentioned needs to be talked about, and that is about, she mentioned the word sacrifice, and I think it's really important. I probably should have talked about this yesterday, but what is love? When we break it down, what is love? Those of us who believe the Bible to be true, what is love? And then there's 1,000 answers to that question. There's 1,000 answers to that question, and it's a little different for everybody. But if we take 2 places out of the Bible that I believe really, really explain what love is, we have John 15:13, which is, love that is greater than this, there is none, that a man lay down his life for his friends. And then, right near there we have John 3:16, which says, God loved us so much that he gave his son for us. So Jesus loved us so much that he gave his life. And if we look at that, I would say love and sacrifice, they're kind of interchangeable. And
wow.
And that,
so it's not all butterflies?
No, it's not all
Darn.
roses and butterflies.
Darn.
No, it is all roses and butterflies. Let's talk about roses and butterflies.
What?
Let's talk about roses and butterflies and sacrifice. It doesn't always mean huge. Sacrifice doesn't always necessarily have to be something enormous. Let's talk about the personalities. Let's talk about a type A, or a ruby or an emerald, or a detail-oriented personality. It is a sacrifice for them to put in their schedule to text their spouse in the middle of the day. That's a sacrifice. It's something they wouldn't normally do, and it costs them something. That's a sacrifice, but it's an act of love. It's an act of love. They do it because they love their spouse. That's something I have to do.
I just caught this. So every day I get a text from my husband. My personality, I love words of affirmation. I love quality time and hearing how awesome I am. I'm sorry, that's just how I'm wired. God made me that way, and that's cool with me. So my husband regularly texts me in the middle of the day, and will tell me like, "I love XYZ thing about you," or "You are the hottest woman alive," or whatever. It's like it's stuff that feeds my ego. I love it. But that's something that he sets reminders and alarms in his phone because that's what it takes for him to love me well. It's awesome.
Right? And if we go back to, oh, I lost it. If we go back to yesterday, and we talk about two people who want to can make anything work. And we're talking about. I might have just messed that all up. Let's talk about sacrifice and making things work. According to the Bible, we're supposed to be the bride of Christ, right? We are the bride of Christ. We are the most unfaithful bride you could possibly imagine, and yet he still sacrificed everything because he loved us. You cannot convince me that love and sacrifice are not the same. Sacrifice for the right reasons. He sacrificed because he loved us. He didn't sacrifice for ego. He didn't sacrifice for glory. But we have the example proving that unfaithfulness does not have to break up a marriage. Because there is no greater unfaithfulness than us for our groom.
Dang.
I didn't expect to go there. That was cool.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Okay, wow.
All right. But, the reason I went there, to raise up a young person with the understanding that love and sacrifice are the same, sets them up enormously when they're looking for a spouse on their list, or when they are creating their list. To understand that they're going to go into it loving the way loving's supposed to be. And I know we can get into the love languages, we can whatever, but and the question has nothing to do with where we ended up. But my apologies. Yes, it's important that you accept yourself, that you love yourself, because if you cannot believe you're worth loving, you will not believe someone else will, and it will be a big problem. And that's a conversation we should have another time. That's a big one, though.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Okay, so along with choosing yourself, that question was, before you can choose someone else, you have to choose yourself. Yes, before you can love someone else, you got to love yourself. All these fun things. Along with choosing yourself and self-care, I gotta throw this out there for the ladies. I know that I said that the chicks are not on the chopping block today. Maybe not in Brad's world, but for Xtina, yeah, gotta bring something up. Okay, if you have dated someone and you have presented your pretty self and your freshly showered self and your made up self, and then you get them to marry you, and then all of a sudden you decide that you're going to schlep it in sweatpants, you have just done what is called in the marketing and the business world a bait and switch. You have presented your merchandise in such a fashion that you have lured your man into making a lifelong commitment to you, and then you switched it up and gave them a different deal. So not cool. And along with the whole idea, there's this big movement, I feel, in women's, I don't want to say lib, women's thought today is that you become a mom and life is just so overwhelming, or, you get married and life is so overwhelming. Okay, well, you still have a half an hour in the morning that you could choose to either stay in bed or get up and get dressed up and show up and look like the girl that he fell in love with. And if you choose not to do that and you decide, everything is your choice, but if you decide to put everything in line ahead of yourself and you stop taking any self-care, you're sending a little subconscious signal in the bedroom realm of your marriage that you are closed for business. Did you used to go get the Brazilian wax? Did you used to shower all the time? Did you used to work out? Keep everything nice and tight and toned. Okay, think about it. If you stop doing all those things and your husband fell in love with all of that, and then you decide, I'm just not going to shower for 3 days because I've got all these kids and this house is a wreck and I've got to run this company and I don't have time for myself anymore, you just sabotaged your sex life. So just keep these little words, oh wise one, in your mind. You are not closed for business. Take care of yourself. You will feel so much better. It breeds intimacy in your marriage when you take care of yourself. And that sends a signal to your spouse that you care about them too for the long haul. And you want them close to you because you don't stink and your breath is sparkling. Okay. Back to the interesting wisdom from Brad.
Interesting. Isn't it we got another question. We got a question from somebody interested in long distance. They heard on the last one that we lived a long ways apart, even while we were married for a while. It was constant communication, I would say, that helped us with the distance. We talked every day, sometimes twice a day. And we saw each other every month. And I think that was big. That was huge. And, you know, it won't work with everybody. You know? If there's somebody not committed to choosing, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
That's good.
And the other question I got was, are there any books I recommend about, most specifically about choosing, but about the whole thing? I recommend the Bible. That's a good one. It's a really good one. And if you're going to read the Bible, then I really highly recommend a book called The Divine Mentor.
I haven't read that.
That changed how I read the Bible. Because I honestly, I don't have any books I can think of that really taught me about choosing, of the type of books that most people ask about. I get a lot of frowns when people find out that I like to read fiction, but I've honestly learned a ton from fiction. I've learned a ton from fiction. You know, I've read more than 20 times a book called Lord of the Silver Bow, and I recommend every man read that book. And it's fiction. Yet they will learn more about being a man in that book than they will in most others.
It's very valiant and sexy.
And it's about being flawed and accepting yourself and forgiveness and, you know, sacrifice and love. I recommend that book. If at any point in your existence you ever thought of yourself as any kind of warrior, you should read it. And every man should read it.
Author?
David Gemmell. Maybe it's pronounced Gemmell. I don't know. It's Gemmell. And I highly recommend every man read that book. I have given away 25 plus copies. I've read it more than 20 times. And I get some frowns. I've got questions. Why do you read fiction? And, you know, when I had to think about it, the truth is, because I can look in the mirror and be proud in the morning of who I am. And one of those major influences has been David Gemmell. When I was younger, I read a book called Boundaries in Dating. I remember it being a good book, but I was a very different man then. I don't know if it would apply to me now. Probably had stuff that would apply to me. However, I also want people to be very, very careful. People who are very, very strict about not having sex before they're married have a tendency to place a lot of judgment on people who are looser in that area. And that was not intended to be a pun. That's terrible. You should not have
I have
laughed.
to leave.
You should not have laughed. You should not have laughed.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Still punny. Still punny.
And I don't want you to be asking that question so that you have a list of books to give the men you're interested in dating so that you can know. Because you are in big trouble if you do that. You're in big trouble
Here's
if you do
the
that.
top
Stop
5
laughing.
Here's the top 5 books on why I won't sleep with you.
Right? Because as ugly to a person, let's say I'm the one hardcore on not sleeping around. As ugly as it is to me that my partner doesn't have that strict guideline, there is something in me equally as ugly. It's probably judgment.
Oh.
You know? And honestly, if we're making a really accurate list, I would put judgment on the list. If I was going to be that anal, I would put judgment on the
Got all
list.
the sex jokes today.
That was not a sex joke. That's
Sorry.
terrible. Don't do that.
Okay.
So be very, 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 very careful. It's fine to have on your list someone who will wait.
Oh, okay.
That's a great thing to have on your list.
That's cool.
But and then if they don't stick to that, you know they're not for you, because that's one of those 10 things you got on your list. It's that easy. It's that easy.
That's cool.
All right. That is all the questions. If you guys have questions, put them in the comments. I'm going to read them later, and I'll do my best to answer them. I may not be able to, and again, a lot of this is, opinion based on experience and Bible and otherwise people who have spoken into my life. So you take it or leave it. It's up to you.
Okay, enough with the Q&A. I want to hear about this video. What is your content for video 2? I'm ready.
I want to talk to the guys a little bit tonight. The girls I'm going to talk to in the next one, but I really want to talk to the guys a little bit. We'll start with our society. Our society has set guys up to fail in the area of dating. And we're not even talking about sexually, though that's huge. Well, maybe we'll talk about it in a moment. There is not much greater rejection a guy can feel than to hear from a girl he's asked out that she would just rather be his friend. Or that he's cute, but I'm not really interested. It doesn't seem like there should be, and some guys deal with it better than others, but there's not much more rejection a guy can feel than that. And I don't know why that is. I have a theory, and we're going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it tomorrow, or in the next video. But I don't know why that is, but it is the way it is. So please stop judging the guys for not stepping up and asking you out. They have felt an amount of rejection that is enormous, and they have to overcome that first. And so guys, now we're going to talk about fear, because we can use that rejection as an excuse. But the truth is, our Bible tells us over and over and over and over again, do not fear, which means we have the choice to be afraid or not. It's a choice. It's nothing else. It's a choice. So I would just encourage you to choose to not be afraid. On a instinctive level, a woman wants a protector, a provider, a strong presence in their life. They have a need for a leader who respects and loves them. These are needs, and they're not going to put this on their list. Very few will put this on their list, but they need it. It's on their list in their heart. And what we've just spoken to them when we don't ask them out is that our fear is greater of importance to us than our willing to be strong for them.
Or fight for it.
Our fear is making it so that we will not fight for her. Well, if we won't fight for her, why should she marry us? That's what she needs. That's what she wants. And there will be strong women who won't agree.
All right.
They're
Women's
misled.
lib.
But um, but they need that. They want that. And we are communicating to them unconsciously. They don't know you're saying it. You don't know you're saying it. But when you are afraid to ask them out, you are communicating to them, this is not the strong leader that I want. So why would they? No, that one. Sorry, that was a wrong thought. I just about spoke.
Yeah.
You need to be willing to step out, because when you're married, that's your job. Your job is to take the first steps into danger. Your job is to take the first steps into things that might be a little uncomfortable. You're the leader. You are the king.
Got it. Can I tell a Sapphire story?
You can tell us that.
All right, guys. So, on this whole topic of the guy demonstrating his willingness to fight, to lead, being unafraid, when I met Brad, so we met each other at a business conference. He was working at the resource table for a speaker, a coach, a leader named Dani Johnson. She's DANIJohnson.com. She is our current business coach. Super bomb. So Brad was working as a volunteer at her resource table. I went back to the back table. I was there 100% for business. I was not looking for a guy. I have like guys coming out of my ears, like people coming at me left and right wanting to date me. It was an interesting point in my life. But I was super hurt by an old relationship, and so I was not looking for a guy at all, not even a little smidgen. So I went to the back in the resource table to purchase some products, and Brad attempted to talk to me there, and he says that I was having none of it. I don't remember meeting him at all. However, his persistence in his and his lack of fear was amazing, because we all wear a little name badge when we're at these conferences. It's like a business conference. And so he memorized my name badge. A little while after leaving that conference, if you have any bit of a networking bone in your body, you know that if you're going to go to a conference, you might as well meet some people, because it's like a networking opportunity and you get to meet some amazing like-minded thinkers. So after I went to this event, this Dani Johnson event, it's my second event I ever went to, I got a friend request from Brad. Now, I had also gotten about 30 to 50 friend requests from other people that I met that weekend. What I noticed in that room was that the people in that room were committed to personal development. They were committed to growing their companies and their brands, and they seemed to be people of high integrity and some pretty decent intelligence. And so all the people from Dani Johnson who had friend requested me after that event, I went ahead and clicked, yeah, add friend. Why not? They seem cool. Brad was in that pool of people from Dani Johnson. Now, give it about over the next 3 weeks or so, and mind you, I didn't remember meeting him. He memorized my name. He friend requested me. I go to Facebook and I'm looking through, you get the little notifications in your bar at the top. It'll tell you like 5 people liked your thing or 20 people shared your video, whatever. Brad's name consistently popped up about 50 times in a row, because he fearlessly went through my personal Facebook page and he treated the whole thing. He had his list of what he was looking for in a potential spouse. And I apparently had met some of what he wanted on his list. And so at this point, it was a prospect. I was a sales prospect in the arena of capturing a spouse. So as one of his prospects, he went through and he began to like everything on my page. And so I'd go to my notifications and it would say, Brad Harmsworth likes your post. Brad Harmsworth commented on your picture. Brad Harmsworth likes your picture. Brad Harmsworth likes your picture. Brad Harmsworth likes your profile picture. Brad commented on your post. I'm like, who's Brad? I don't know this guy. So he got me to ask the $1 million question, who is Brad? But he did that by fearlessly exposing his name to my eyeballs. So that lack of a fear, that lack of caring if I said yes or no, when you look at securing a spouse or capturing a life partner, capturing your mate, when you look at that and you look at it through the lens or the eyes of a sales or a sales pitch, you realize, okay, what are the qualities that I'm looking for? It's just like an interview. You have what you want the candidate to display. So you've got your list. And then you start looking for prospects that meet your list. Once you've got your prospects, now you're looking for, I love what Rose is saying. She said persistence is key. Now you're looking for ways to, don't take this the wrong way, but expose yourself to the person. So it's not what I'm trying to say.
Didn't laugh.
Right. But for our audience, for our viewers, Brad continually put his name in front of my eyes by liking things of mine on social media and then eventually just sending me a private message and saying like, hey, and that was the icebreaker. So he took the fear element out by creating in his mind the idea that this was sales. Everything in life, truly, when you break it down, we've learned from our coach and mentor, Danny Johnson, everything truly is sales. So I learned after I had married Brad that he had used a sales strategy from DannyJohnson.com called Expose, Involve, Upgrade. He exposed my eyeballs to his name like 100 something times. Then he got me involved in a conversation in private message, and then he upgraded me into marrying him. Thanks, Danny. Thanks. I like my treat. Thank you. So it takes the fear aspect out of it. But had he been like scared to talk to me or been like, oh my gosh, like she'll never go out with me, like Brad, no, he just went for it. And I was like, I like the persistence, man. It's pretty hot. Yeah.
And fear disappears when you take action. There's no time in your brain for fear when you've chosen and you're taking action. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
So good.
Probably one of the most amazing coaches I ever had. His name is Hans. And if you know him, you understand what I'm talking about. He used to teach us about striking our fear. That's the mindset to have, is you strike your fear. You're afraid up until you send that first message. You're afraid until you make a phone call. You're afraid until you ask her out for coffee. But in the moment you do those things, there's no fear.
Really?
It's not there. It comes right back if you just sit back and wait and don't do anything else. Right? Now you fear, well, what if she says no? What if did she get it? But it's about taking action. It's about sales. It's about sales. It is just sales. If you have your own business and you're on the phone, what happens when someone says, no, I don't want that? Do you cry? Do you worry?
Sometimes.
No. Yeah, that's true. But you shouldn't. You shouldn't. They didn't see the opportunity. That's fine.
And there's 7 billion people on the
There's
planet.
7 billion people on the planet.
Oh.
I had a young man. He's actually watching right now. He asked me for some advice. And one of the things that came out of it was I had to remind him, don't make so-and-so the goal. Make marriage the goal.
Ooh.
Because if you make so-and-so the goal, then when there's ever any rejection, it is earth-shattering. Because you cannot achieve your goal. That's one of those goals that's kind of involves somebody else to achieve. And so if they're not on board, what are you left with? You're left with a broken goal. But if marriage is the goal, then you just go back to your list.
Of prospects.
And back to your list of prospects. Your list of what you want and your list of prospects.
Yeah. Great pool to fish in, by the way, if you are prospecting for a spouse or someone to get to know for like the idea of marriage. Great pool to fish in is Danny Johnson's live training seminars. Like, obviously, getting in a place where people are thinking like minded as you. They are wanting to build a dynasty, build a company, build an amazing future, be financially secure, grow their hearts and minds, grow their faith, be around like minded people. Like, duh.
It's the only place I will recommend people from. That
Wow.
Don't come and ask me to connect you with somebody unless you've been to Dynasty, because that's the only place I will connect people.
That's good.
That's the only place. Because I don't want to see you fail. That's a place that gives you so many more tools to succeed.
Matthew Klein said, if you want a drunk for a spouse, shop at a bar. Oh.
It's probably not right 100% of the time.
It's not
but it
right
ain't wrong.
100% of the time. I've been to a bar. Just kidding. But yeah. What else would you say to our guys? That's pretty on point.
I don't know that I have a ton more to say to the guys tonight. When we decided to break this into 4 sessions, I was worried about tonight, actually, because like tonight's was like the smallest piece I had to talk about. But guys and girls, you got to stop being afraid. You have to choose. You get the choice. It is a choice. Nothing else. You don't have to be afraid. That your personality doesn't matter. Circumstances don't matter. You just get to choose.
Interesting. I feel like our society has kind of programmed women to wait around too, and I believe that might be a topic
For the next one.
for the next video. Dang, I'm so excited for the next video. There's 2 big ones that I have been waiting for Brad to tackle. He has some really strong belief systems on those 2. One of them is about chicks just sitting and waiting around, and I really think that our society and the books and even the Christian authors out there they've got us programmed pretty crazy. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in tonight and hearing out what Brad's ideas were on this subject. And I hope that guys will take the example that Brad set. Like, funny, after Brad and I were married or dating or whatever, people asked him, like some of our great friends, we're all at dinner with Brad, and he was kind of telling the story of hitting like 50 million times on my page. And someone jokingly said, like, isn't that kind of like stalkerish? And Brad's like, well, look at the results. Are any of you guys married? It's true. So take the fear out. And guys, if there's a girl who meets your list, meets those requirements, and is like someone who you could potentially see a future with, don't be scared to like reach out. Take the fear out of it. If they say no, they didn't see the opportunity and they're not the one for you, and that's no big deal. There's 7 billion people. No big deal. The person is not always the goal. Your future is the goal. It's good stuff.
So the next one is going to be Saturday. I'm probably going to keep the same time. I like this time because it allows the West Coast to join at a decent hour, and it allows Europe and all our friends across the pond to see it immediately the next morning. So I think we'll probably keep it. So the next one will be Saturday. And we got 2 big topics to talk about coming up, amongst wherever else it goes, because it seems to hit off all kinds of places. But one is about, we're going to talk about how a woman thinks of dating and what the Bible says about dating. We're going to talk. In fact, before Saturday, I recommend everybody read the Book of Ruth.
Yes.
In the Bible, you need to read the Book of Ruth twice. That's
easy.
my homework for you. It's like 2-3 pages, no problem. But the other thing we're going to talk about, and has been highly requested, I didn't ask any of those questions from yesterday, is we're going to talk about sex and celibacy and how that fits into dating and the different ways to look at it and what it does. We're going to talk about it. That has been highly requested, and that's okay. I'll talk about sex.
It might be shocking.
And both the remaining times with us are going to be a little shocking. You're going to learn some things you never thought of before. You're going to learn some things you never thought of before. You're going to learn some things that you will never hear in society, and if you let it, it's going to change your life.
If you let it.
So I'm excited to see you all on Saturday,
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Eastern. Sweet.
And we love you. I hope you got something out of tonight's. I think last night's was a little bit more power packed, but Saturdays is going to rock your world. So
Yeah.
we'll see you then.
Cool. Later, babes.